UFC 261, Usman vs Masvidal 2 takes place in only a couple of hours, so these are my last minute detailed predictions for every single fight on the card. I'm going to start with the early prelims, end with the main event, telling you guys exactly what's going to happen in each and every fight. I'm not calling out who's going to win based on resumes, I'm not trying to predict who's going to win based on style matchups. I'm trying to call the scorecards, the finishing move, and I'm starting with the early prelim opener of Liang versus Ariane Carnelossi. I'm going to be going with Ariane Carnelossi. I don't think this is going to be a high-level MMA bout. I actually think it's going to be quite a fun scrap, to be honest with you guys. I'm predicting Ariane Carnelossi by unanimous decision, 30-27. I don't see a finish happening here, but I do believe she's going to win this one by just being a little bit scrappier in the close exchanges and win those scrappy moments in these bouts. It's not going to be a great display of martial arts, but I think Ariane Carnelossi is going to do a little bit more each round and win herself a 30-27 unanimous decision. Moving on up the card, Aori Qileng versus Jeffrey Molina. I'm going to be going with Aori Qileng here, and I'm going to call another decision win for Aori Qileng, and also another decision win on this card in a row. I think Qileng is going to go out there and just do a little bit better than Jeffrey Molina every single round. I like Jeff Molina. He just seems like he doesn't really have that thing that you're looking for in a contender to go forwards. Aori Qileng, a little bit more experienced. I can see him just having that veteranship at the end of each round to secure himself the rounds by just winning a couple exchanges here and there. Again, I don't think it's going to be an amazing performance from either guy, but I think Aori Qileng has got that veteran savvy to go out there and just win himself a close 30-27. You know what I might say? I'll say 29-28 unanimous decision for Aori Qileng. I could definitely see Jeffrey Molina being the younger guy here, which he is, and going out there and having a pretty good start. But I think Aori Qileng is going to take over as these rounds go on and win himself rounds 2 and 3 for a 29-28 unanimous decision win for Aori Qileng. Moving on up the card, Rodrigo Vargas versus Rong Zhu. I'm going to be going with Rong Zhu. I think I'm going to call him by TKO here. He likes to get TKOs, and he'll push for those TKOs if he doesn't feel like he's going to get them by the time the rounds are over. I think I'm going to call Rong Zhu by third round TKO against Rodrigo Vargas. I think it's going to be a fun scrap. Maybe Rodrigo Vargas steals a round and maybe makes a round a little bit close. Then Rong Zhu starts picking up a little bit more in the second round of some body shots. I think we're going to see a lot of body shots here against Rodrigo Vargas, and Rong Zhu's going to try and break him down as these rounds go on. Maybe a couple of submission attempts here and there that fail for Rong Zhu. I think come the third round, Rodrigo Vargas is going to start to back up, shell up against the cage, look like a 35-year-old against a 21-year-old, and I think Rong Zhu's going to put him away in the third round. Body shot themed, but I don't think the final blow is going to be a body shot. I think he's going to maybe hurt him to the body and then go upstairs afterwards, and we're going to see like a Max Holloway, Anthony Pettis-esque finish where he gets hurt to the body and then the shots upstairs just make him wilt against the cage. Rong Zhu by third round TKO, Holloway versus Pettis style. Moving on up the card, Danaa Batgerel versus Kevin Natividad. I'm calling a first round KO here, and I think it's going to lead with an uppercut, in all honesty, and I'm not just saying that because Kevin Natividad got hit by an uppercut and got KO'd in his last fight against Miles Johns. I'm saying that is because Miles Johns went for that uppercut and landed that uppercut because Kevin Natividad, when people start to pressure him and start to land a couple of blows, he starts to sort of sit himself into shots and brace for them. I think that leaves a bit of an opening for an uppercut for Danaa Batgerel. He's got very slick hands, and I'm going to call a first round KO for Danaa Batgerel here against Kevin Natividad. I think it's going to be a scrappy fight to begin with. Both guys are going to be a little bit hesitant early, but then it's going to get into a couple of exchanges towards the end of the first round, and I think towards the end of the first round, with about a minute left, Danaa Batgerel is going to land an uppercut, look like it stunned Kevin Natividad a little bit, and then follow up with like a 1-2 combination to finish Kevin Natividad with a couple of ground and pound shots afterwards. Danaa Batgerel by first round KO. Moving on up the card, Pat Sabatini versus Tristan Connelly. I'm calling Pat Sabatini also in the first round here, and I think he's going to get it done by first round, not KO, first round submission. I like Pat Sabatini's submission game, and I think after a long time off, Tristan Connelly, who's just had neck surgery as well, by the way, and by the way, I'm calling a guillotine here for Pat Sabatini. I think I'm going to go with a regular guillotine, maybe not an arm-in guillotine. You know what? I might go even more specific. I'll go an arm-in guillotine for Pat Sabatini. I can see Tristan Connelly shooting a bad takedown after being pressured early against Pat Sabatini. He comes out switched on. I think he's going to come out looking to make a statement early against Tristan Connelly here, who's been out for a little while, and Connelly's going to be a little bit rusty in that opening round. Around the 2-minute mark, Sabatini's going to have him backed up against the cage, land a couple of good shots here and there on the feet, and then Connelly's going to shoot for a takedown to try and alleviate some pressure, and he's going to put himself under more pressure around the neck area, because Pat Sabatini's going to latch up an arm-in guillotine and secure it in the first round of this bout against Tristan Connelly after a bad takedown attempt that's trying to get Pat Sabatini to leave him alone and stop pressuring him against the cage. And Connelly's going to be a little bit hesitant after a long time off, and it's going to get him caught. Sabatini by first round arm-in guillotine. Moving on up the card, Karl Roberson versus Brendan Allen. I'm going to go with a decision for Brendan Allen, and you know what I'm going to do as well? Here's what's going to happen. I'm predicting not just the fights, I'm predicting the retardation of the judges as well. I'm going an extra level below the predictions, okay? This is why I'm the best predictor on YouTube. Subscribe right now. I'm calling that it will be a 29-28 unanimous decision to Brendan Allen, but it's going to be a split decision. And it shouldn't be a split decision whatsoever. It should not be, but it will be because that's the sport we're in. It's going to be a split decision, but Brendan Allen is going to win it, and he would have won it anyway, and people are going to agree with the decision and act like, who saw that with, for Roberson? Allen should have won 2 rounds to 1, but I do believe it's going to be a very close fight. I think Roberson's going to land a couple of shots on the feet. I don't see him KOing Brendan Allen on the feet. I think both guys are going to land some shots on the feet here and there. But if you've watched the Karl Roberson fight with Wellington Turman, I think Brendan Allen's going to kind of do that game plan, and in that fight, Karl Roberson managed to sneak it out. But I think Brendan Allen's going to do a little bit more than Wellington Turman could in those grappling exchanges, and I've seen Karl Roberson give up his back quite a bit. So I think Brendan Allen's going to win this bout on total strikes on the ground and also securing some positional control with the back takes, with the mount position. Karl Roberson's going to be able to fight out of these situations, and I don't think he will get finished by Brendan Allen in this fight, but I do see a 29-28 unanimous decision for Brendan Allen. I think he's going to win those positional exchanges in the grappling. Maybe not even get some blast double legs, just push him up against the cage, wait for Karl Roberson to expose his back, looking to get away from him, and then maybe take the back with a hook in and drag him down to the canvas. I can see Brendan Allen winning a sloppy but scrappy exchange-based fight by winning the positional control in the first and third round or something like that. Or maybe he wins it in the first and second round and Roberson starts putting on the pressure in the third and maybe sneaks that round instead. But I'm going to go Brendan Allen by unanimous decision, but it's going to be a split decision because the judges are fucking blind. Moving on. Up the card, Dwight Grant versus Stefan Sekulic. Now, I'm going with Dwight Grant by KO. I think he will get the KO here. He's got devastating power and his limbs are just a little bit unfairly long, I must say. Like, he's got very long limbs, but Stefan Sekulic has got equally quite long limbs as well, so maybe that's not going to be as much of an advantage as I thought it would be, but Dwight Grant, I think, is going to land that KO blow in the first round here. Stefan Sekulic stepping up. I don't see him getting this one done against Dwight Grant. It is quite worrying, the age of Dwight Grant being 36 years of age in the welterweight division, and he is coming off that KO loss to Daniel Rodriguez as well, but I think he's going to wait for his moment. Sekulic is going to be looking to pressure, and I'm going to call just a big counter overhand right for Dwight Grant straight on the chin of Stefan Sekulic, and I think it's going to be a brutal first round KO. I'll say in the closing minute of the first round, Dwight Grant's going to catch him with a big shot as Sekulic rushes in to try and steal the round for himself, and Dwight Grant gets a first round KO. Moving on up the card, Alex Oliveira versus Randy Brown. I'm going with Randy Brown by unanimous decision, 29-28, and it will be a 29-28 unanimous decision. I feel like Alex Oliveira, no, I'll go 30-27. I'll say 30-27 Randy Brown. I'm pretty confident in Randy Brown. I like him as the fight goes on. I think he's got good cardio, good conditioning. The only people we've seen beat him have been pretty good, like Vicente Luque in his last bout, but he did suffer a KO loss. I just feel like Alex Oliveira is going to lose this one, based on not being able to take the damage that Randy Brown is going to be able to take. And I know that Randy Brown is coming off that KO loss, but I feel like Alex Oliveira in his bouts, he just always seems to get injured with something, like the hand starts hurting him and he stops throwing a right hand, or the nose gets broken and he starts breathing out of his mouth and the nose is just spewing blood everywhere in the cage, or he cuts something over his eye and he can't really see and the eye's swollen up, or his toe is broken, like against Mike Perry. Like, he always seems to have these injuries in these wars back and forth, and I think it's his body breaking down after so many wars throughout his career, and I think that's going to be the factor here. I can see both guys doing very well in the first round. I think Randy Brown is going to edge out the first round. There's going to be no grappling situations whatsoever. Oliveira just got choked out by a guillotine in the first round. I think he's going to be hesitant going for the grappling exchanges because Randy Brown is really good off of his back. Got a triangle win against Wale Alves. No grappling whatsoever. I see a stand-up bout, both guys picking each other apart, Oliveira rushing in for some exchanges, but in the meantime, other than the big exchanges where maybe Oliveira is going to win, Randy Brown's going to land overall more of the strikes at range, and he's going to win in the middle moments, other than the big climatic moments. Oliveira's going to win the rushes, Randy Brown's going to win the sustained amount of the fight, and I think he'll secure himself a 30-27 unanimous decision and start doing really well in the third round after Oliveira looks like he's maybe broken down a little bit, and maybe Randy Brown wins it just by Oliveira scooting around the outside trying to survive till the end. I'm going to go Randy Brown by 30-27 unanimous decision. Moving on to the main card. Anthony Smith versus Jimmy Crute. I'm going with Jimmy Crute by 30-26 unanimous decision. I think it's going to be absolute domination. I like Anthony Smith. I just see him shell up on the ground a little bit too much nowadays, and I think you can't afford to do that against a guy like Jimmy Crute. I think that Anthony Smith shelling up the way he does and keeping his limbs to himself on the ground is something that he does quite well. He's very, very hard to finish in a fight because he doesn't really give you anything. He's not going to leave an arm out there. He's not going to leave a leg out there. He's very tucked up and away when he wants to be on the ground. But I think Jimmy Crute's just going to be too strong in those positions, and Anthony Smith's going to get controlled on the ground for 3 rounds. First 2 rounds, maybe there's some exchanges on the feet here and there. Crute chops at the legs and then eventually goes for a takedown in the second half of the first and second round and secures himself the round by doing that. Maybe has a couple of Kimura attempts that don't quite work because Smith's got good jiu-jitsu defense. Maybe Crute goes for a couple submissions, fails them, but it's going to win him the first 2 rounds. Come the third round, I can see Jimmy Crute, after the extended damage to the leg of Anthony Smith and maybe some shots upstairs as well, and maybe some body shots on the ground, and just all of the swarming pressure that he's putting on Anthony Smith, I think Smith's going to really shell up on the ground in the third round and look sort of like the Teixeira fight, except a little bit earlier into the bout, not the 4th round, the 3rd this time, and Crute's going to start really piecing him up and battering him in that 3rd round on the ground and also on the feet as well. Maybe he drops him at some point, but I'm going to call a 10-8 round in the 3rd for Jimmy Crute because I love his pressure on the ground, and I think he's going to have a couple of submission attempts in the 3rd round as well. I see Jimmy Crute winning this one by unanimous decision, 30-26, with a 10-8 beatdown in the 3rd round against Anthony Smith. But the first 2 rounds are going to be good on the feet while it lasts. Crute will win it with his grappling towards the end of those rounds. He's not going to shoot straight in for a takedown like Devin Clark on a dry Anthony Smith. I think they're going to wait until they get a little bit sweaty first. Then Crute's going to go for the takedowns. 30-26 Jimmy Crute. Moving on up the card, Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall. 2. Should I add? Because it's a rematch. I'm going to go with Chris Weidman here. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I'm actually going to call a 29-28 unanimous decision for Chris Weidman. I think Uriah Hall's going to make a little bit of a late rally. I don't think it's going to be enough for a 10-8 round. I think he's going to start landing some good shots on Chris Weidman in that 3rd round, and maybe Weidman starts thinking, holy shit, give me some space here. I'm going to scoot around the outside of the octagon and survive to a decision because I've done enough in the first 2 rounds. But in those first 2 rounds, I can definitely see Chris Weidman being able to out-grapple Uriah Hall on the ground and just be too much pressure for him on the ground, securing good positions, maybe go for a couple of arm triangles that Uriah Hall's going to escape. I don't see him finishing Uriah Hall by submission, but I can see him controlling Uriah Hall, landing the total strikes when he needs to, and having that Antonio Carlos Jr. game plan. I say Antonio Carlos Jr.'s name so much. I love triple barrel names. I love to say them out of my mouth. But Chris Weidman's going to control him in the first 2 rounds, land more total strikes, not too much damage, but he's going to control Uriah Hall, and Hall's going to have a good 3rd round, but it's going to be too little too late. 29-28 Chris Weidman. Moving on up the card, Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade. Now, I thought Shevchenko might not TKO her. I saw the weigh-in. I think Valentina Shevchenko is going to TKO Jessica Andrade in the first 2 rounds. She's just a little bit too big. I think she's going to land the shots as Andrade rushes in. And something else about Jessica Andrade, if she is going to lose, it's going to maybe be by TKO, because she has that style where, and I really respect her for this, because she's not like the other women's MMA fighters, where if she's going to lose, she's going to try and go out looking for a finish. So I think in the second round, I'm going to call it, at the end of the second round, I think Valentina Shevchenko is going to land a knee up the middle in the clinch on Jessica Andrade and finish her after that, drop Jessica Andrade with a knee in the middle, and then land some good ground and pound shots afterwards, and I think she'll finish Jessica Andrade in the second round by TKO to ground and pound after a knee up the middle lands perfectly on Andrade's chin, rushing in after losing the first round on points and having a little bit of a stale first round, and Shevchenko gets the job done by second round TKO. Moving on up the card, Zhang Weili versus Rose Namajunas. I'm going with Zhang Weili, also by TKO here, and I think she will get it done by TKO, and I think it's not going to happen early like Valentina Shevchenko's. I think she's going to get a TKO in the fourth round against Rose Namajunas. I see them both having a good first round. I think I'm actually going to give the first round to Rose Namajunas. I think she's going to be landing some good shots. The commentary team is going to be simping all over her, because that's what the trend is about Rose Namajunas. And I think she's going to win the first round, landing some decent shots. Everyone's going to be talking about, wow, how amazing she looks. Meanwhile, Zhang Weili is going to be chopping at those legs, and they're going to start adding up throughout the fight, but I think Namajunas is going to land more punches to the head in the first round, which is going to give her the advantage in the judges' scorecards. First round, Namajunas. Second round, razor close, but Zhang Weili, in my opinion, is going to edge that round towards the end, leaving a good impression in the judges' minds by finishing strong against Rose Namajunas and landing some good combinations and maybe a couple of leg kicks at the end of the round as well. And maybe this time Rose Namajunas is starting to step a little bit funny on her leg, and that's going to give the judges a little bit of an impression. Close second round, though, but Zhang Weili's round. The third round, I think Rose Namajunas is going to be in big trouble. At the start of the third round, I think it's going to be a bit of the same. At the end of the third round, I think we can see Zhang Weili really starting to pull ahead of Rose Namajunas here, who does slow down a little bit under high-pressure fights. Same with Zhang Weili, but I think she's got a little bit more in the tank than Rose Namajunas, and I think she's going to start using those body kicks in the third round once they're into the fight, and maybe Rose Namajunas' power that Zhang Weili's got to respect a little bit early is going to be faded a little bit. I think Zhang Weili's going to start throwing those body kicks, chopping more at the legs. Then at the end of the third round, it's going to be a bit of a beatdown. Rose Namajunas is going to be swollen up at the eye, nose busted, leaking out of her face all over it, just completely ruined in her stall. Pat Berry's going to be like, hey, we got to get things going. This is what we train for. Hit her with the fucking mud house building combo. I don't even know what they have, but still, Rose Namajunas, the compost combo or something like that. I don't even know what Rose gets up to in her spare time, but Rose Namajunas is going to be in really bad shape on the stall at the end of the third round. The fourth round's going to come around, and Zhang Weili, I believe, is going to get a standing TKO against Rose Namajunas. I don't see her dropping her. I don't see her battering her on the ground. I think it's going to be a standing TKO. I can see Rose Namajunas shelling up against the cage, sort of looking away as well, trying to get out of there and show a message to the referee that she's a little bit too beaten up, and I think Zhang Weili is going to get a fourth round TKO standing against Rose Namajunas. Makhmud Muradov versus Andrew Sanchez style. That's a real specific one for you fucking hardcores out there. Moving on up the card to the main event. Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. I'm going with Kamaru Usman. Okay, I like Masvidal, and you know what? Yeah, I'll speak about this right now. There's a feeling in the air that Masvidal's going to get him. And I can sense that, and it's pissing me off that that exists. There's a feeling, and there's a little buzz. And then trilogies make a lot of money, okay? Just going to point some things out there. But I believe that Usman's going to go out there, lose the first round to Jorge Masvidal. I know he may have lost the first round in the first fight anyway, but it was up for grabs, whoever took the first round. I think this time it's going to be clear that Masvidal wins the first round. I think there will be some advantages for Masvidal. I am actually going to say that Masvidal is going to edge the second round as well, but it's not going to look good for him in the second round. I think Usman's going to get control in the second round, start really wearing on Masvidal towards the end of the second round, but maybe early on in the second round, Masvidal's going to land a couple of shots and have some good moments at the start of the second round, and the judges are going to think, well, based on damage, we're going to give this round to Masvidal, but in the last 2 minutes, Usman was under full control, landing those shots against the cage to the body, and I think Usman's going to visually win the second, but Masvidal's going to win it on damage, so they're going to give the second round to Masvidal. 2-0 Masvidal going into the third. Usman wins the third round, landing those shots to the body against the cage, foot stomping against the cage, getting a couple of takedowns here and there. I think Usman's going to be a little bit better with his ground and pound as well, but not in the third round. He's going to save that for the fourth and fifth, where he's going to go out there and land a bunch of ground and pound shots on Jorge Masvidal, and we're going to start racking up the control time, I believe, against Masvidal. Although he has a longer camp this time, his objective is the same, to KO Usman early on in the fight, and I think with the full camp, it's just going to lead to him expending more energy in those early rounds and being more confident to expend energy in those first rounds. And I think that even though he's had a full camp, in his short notice bout, you could see he was very aware that there were longer rounds. In this one, with a full camp, I think he's going to be too confident early to go for a finish and rely on his cardio in the later rounds. And I think he's going to be more tired in the later rounds. And Usman is going to get the job done. 2 10-8s in rounds 4 and 5. Not brutal 10-8s, not destruction 10-8s. Current MMA day, current MMA era 10-8 rounds, where they're a little bit easier to get. 4 minutes of control time, non-stop ground and pound with total strikes. Nothing too crazy, not battering him around or anything like that. But Usman's going to secure 2 10-8 rounds in the fourth and fifth. Masvidal's maybe going to secure the first, maybe the second. I have no idea what that even means the scorecards are going to be. I believe I originally said that it was going to be 49-43 for Kamaru Usman, or maybe 49-44. I guess if I give Masvidal another round, that's going to make it a weird fucking scorecard that I don't like. 49-45 or something like that. I have no idea. No, it's not going to be that. It's going to be 48. Here's the scorecards. Listen up real close. It's going to be 48-44 for Kamaru Usman. I think I've got that one right. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Goodbye. I'll see you later.